Dungeons and Television took me by surprise with a concept I never really thought about. And the more I looked into it, the further I fell in love with the indie anime. There is so much that goes into realizing an idea into an animated series. But there was something that always bothered me in the back of my mind. There was almost no information about the English side of Dungeons and Television. Specifically, I mean the cast of the English dub of the anime. I wanted to know more about the behind the scenes of this project that Junchuk and Bonta put a lot of heart and soul into. I searched and searched, yet I couldn't find anything, and I had thought about it for a while. What if you just asked them yourself? A suggestion that someone told me. No, that would never work. But my curiosity knew no limit. And I had thought to myself, it's worth a shot. What could go wrong? And I reached out to one of the cast members, and something spectacular happened. I was fortunate enough to be able to invite one of the members of the English cast of Dungeons and Televisions over to talk more about the project. And I am so incredibly thankful to be able to speak to one of the talented voice actors about their journey and experiences that led up to where they are now. But enough yapping me. Grab some popcorn and get comfy, as we explore a little more about the English cast of Dungeons and Television. And yeah, so today's a bit of a special video. I got the wonderful opportunity to interview one of the voice actors from the English dub of Dungeons and Television. And this voice actor has done a numerous amount of roles from a lot of media that maybe you all may or may not recognize. But for those who may not really know who you are, would you mind introducing yourself and maybe listing some of the roles that you might have been in that people could recognize?
Yeah, my name is Griffin Puatu, and I play Salvatore in Dungeons and Television. I'm also the voice director and scriptwriter for the English version as well. You might recognize me from shows like Beastars, where I play Louis, Blue Exorcist, where I play Lucifer, video games like Spider-Man Miles Morales, where I play Genki Lee, and yeah, those are some of the more notable stuff I've done.
Yeah. And you've been in a lot of these roles, and it's honestly really impressive over the amount of years that you've had voice acting. And correct me if I'm wrong, you've been in the voice acting industry for, I think, since 2015, starting with One Punch Man, I believe. So for those who might not really know like anything about your voice acting career, where did the interest for voice acting really come from? How did it really start?
Yeah, it started when I was really young. I grew up in a big family, and we watched animated movies and TV shows and stuff all the time. And we would watch the same shows and movies over and over, and then quote the lines to each other to kind of make make each other laugh. And for whatever reason, I always had to do it in the character's voice, or it didn't feel right to me. So it kind of started there. I grew up around music, so there was a lot of singing in my household, and then I did school and church plays and things like that. And then in high school, I started to kind of take acting and singing a lot more seriously. I did choir, went to choir competitions, did musical theater, did improv. And around the same time, probably like middle school, is when I got introduced to the world of anime. And it was at that age that I started noticing in these English dubs that, oh, this character has the same voice as this character in this different show. And that's kind of when I made the connection that, like, oh, there are people behind this, and
Yeah.
people who work in this industry. And that's when it kind of clicked that it was a job. And it was always something I was interested in. I started kind of messing around with voices and online projects near the end of high school and then going into college. And then I ended up getting an internship at a studio in Los Angeles that does a lot of anime and video games. And so that was kind of my introduction to the professional side of things and what the business actually looked like, and kind of the practicality of, like, what would working in this industry even look like? And once I saw that, it became a lot less fantastical and more like, oh, I could do this. Like, it'll take some time and some maneuvering, but like, this is doable, like, as a job. And that was kind of what started me on pursuing the career professionally. I did a lot of online indie projects and video games and stuff, and then moved out to LA full time to start working as a voice actor. And yeah, haven't looked back since.
Yeah, that's honestly quite an amazing journey that you've been through. It's a lot of things that you've been through. And having done a lot of roles, was there a specific role that kind of like stuck out to you? Maybe like one of your most favorite that you look back on sometimes, or one that was close to your heart that you love doing as a voice actor.
Early on, I think there was one role that kind of presented was the most challenging, and it was the most I kind of gave to a role, especially early on in my career. There was this movie called Gundam Narrative, which
Mm.
takes place in the Universal Century, which is the mainline
Oh
universe
yeah.
of of the Gundam world. And this film kind of covers things in between one story and another. It's these side characters, and it follows this guy named Yona Basta who lost his family when he was really young and was kind of orphaned with these other two girls who are kind of like sisters to them. He loses one, and then the other one kind of goes off and does their own thing. And the story is kind of about him navigating through this world and basically trying to reconnect the three of them all together. And it's very dark, it's very melodramatic, and quite serious and grounded. Um, and it's all packed within like a 2 hour movie, so
Wow.
it's a lot of emotional ups and downs. And when you're recording it all from beginning to end. The movie is done in Japanese already, so you're kind of speed running through like a lot of emotional turmoil and highs and lows. And so I remember for that role specifically, it was the lead role in a feature length film that was going to come out in theaters, and I felt this intense amount of responsibility and pressure around it. And I just remember really kind of putting myself through the ringer in preparing for the character and all the different scenes that would come up. And yeah, no, it was. I remember like we recorded the film in about a week, like maybe 3 to 4 recording sessions, maybe like 8 hours in total.
Hmm.
By the end of the week, I was like done. I like physically I got sick the week after,
Oh man.
and was kind of just like in kind of mental recovery and physical recovery mode after that. And I go back and I'll listen to kind of I'll watch some of the scenes and hear my acting, and I don't think I've ever sounded that kind of raw and in the moment before. I think the more you kind of work at an art form or a craft, the sharper you get and the cleaner like your takes get and your choices get. You get very good at doing your job.
Hmm.
So but with that movie, it was the one where like there was no polish, no pretense. It was all just whatever's was happening. It was right there. And it's a role that like forced me to really like always remember to be an actor first. Don't think about the voice, don't think about like the technical side of things. Let that kind of let your training and your practice kind of sit off to the side, and then just be in the moment as an actor and really surrender to the circumstances. So that's a role I'm really proud of. I've had other roles like since then that I've really enjoyed,
Hmm.
like Louis and Beastars,
Yeah.
Sunday and Honkai Star Rail. They're both very interesting and deep characters, so they're a great study and a great thing to kind of just dive into. But that was the first role that kind of it was kind of it's the one I don't think I could ever kind of recreate. I've
Hmm.
always kind of thought like, oh, if only I could be as like raw and real and intentional as I
Yeah.
was back then. But
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. I have a lot of respect for you and a lot of other voice actors out there, just because of kind of just the amount of work that really goes into trying to bring characters into life in a lot of these medias. And I also have a sibling who's also trying to get into the voice acting industry. And it wouldn't be a lie to say that I've also had an interest in it, and it really is difficult. And because of that experience and a lot of the stuff that I've read, it's honestly really amazing the amount of like effort you really have to put into voice act and really like feel like you're in the moment, like you're immersed in the media you're voicing in. And it's really awesome, especially with I think it was Sunday from Honkai Star Rail. Me and a lot of other people, we played the game. I've played a good amount of Star Rail, and when I first heard you as Sunday, I was like super impressed with just how you really brought this character into like a world of just space, sci-fi, and a lot of the things that surrounded him. It was really amazing how you really like brought him out. Um, how did you actually land the role of Sunday from Star Rail? I was really wondering that.
Yeah, so it was an audition like any other. So as a voice actor, you are either you connect with casting directors or your agent, and you end up getting emails with auditions. It'll be a brief description of the project, or if it's confidential, just sort of like this is vaguely what it's about. And then you get sides, which are portions of a script for each character, a description of the character and kind of the the arc and the story they kind of want to go with. And I had auditioned for Honkai Star Rail a couple of times. I did some NPC voices and some small little chapter characters here and there. This character in particular, I remember. I don't know if it was in the sides or not. I think it was. But the thing that kind of stood out to me about this character is that he is some type of charismatic cult leader.
Hmm.
Um, and that was the thing I really just like latched onto. With an audition, you don't have much to go off of. So as an actor, it's really important to kind of find what immediately kind of sticks out to you and resonates with you, and then just build around that. And then the more details you get, the more you can kind of fill in. But kind of fleshing out the skeleton of the character is like find what really grounds you in this character.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're gonna get caught up thinking like, well, what does the casting director want, and what's the tone of this, and what have other people done? And that's I think that's the biggest enemy to being an authentic and really doing your job as an actor is thinking about what other people are thinking and what other people might do or might want from you. And so the cult leader angle was kind of what I went with for Sunday. And I've grown up around sort of like sort of religious and kind of the kind of the kind of attitude of being a part of this big sort of religious conglomerate, and the sort of like faux friendliness and the sort of kind of darker edge that's right underneath it. And that's kind of how I built out Sunday. He's very kind and presentational, but underneath there's something a little bit firmer and scarier. And there was always just a little bit of that in every scene, that like everything has to be perfect, and if something's a little off, you very quickly nudge it back into place. And then if that doesn't work, then that's when kind of the darker, more controlling side slips in. But that was kind of how I built the character. And then from there, it was just working with the director and kind of really going for very specific things on each scene, each line, and then kind of seeing what worked.
That's really awesome. I really like that you kind of used your experiences in your life to kind of play into this Sunday character. I really do find that really impressive. And a lot of these giant roles that you've had, I mean, Gundam, Beastars, Star Rail, like these are really big roles. These are like a lot of really notable roles, and I'm pretty sure a lot of those roles didn't come with some difficulty while you were having in your voice acting career. And sometimes people don't really talk about the challenges that you've gone through as a voice actor. Some of the hardships that you had to endure while you were making it as a voice actor. Were there some really difficult times in your life as a voice actor that kind of built your character as you were pursuing your voice acting career?
Yeah, for sure. I think the difficulty with acting, or many many sort of many art forms, are that it's a deeply personal thing that you're doing. You're pulling from personal experience. You're putting a lot of yourself into a character, or finding yourself in a character, in somebody else's journey in life, because you now have to inhabit somebody who might be completely different from you, and you learn things about yourself that you weren't expecting. And so because of that, it's hard not to take other things in the in the career kind of personally, whether it's rejection, or people kind of ignoring you, or then suddenly treating you very nicely now that
Mm.
you're doing well and that you're kind of a big deal. It's hard not to it's hard to navigate all of that and find genuine like connections with people. And it's also it can be dangerous when, as an actor, you're kind of learning to tune your emotions and kind of marionette the things that are supposed to be kind of, you know, natural and just instinctual and responsive,
Mm.
to what's happening. When you're angry or sad or anything, obviously, as you mature, like from a little kid to an adult, you learn to modulate and kind of, be in control of your emotions. Whereas actors, you learn to do that a step or four beyond, where it's just like, let me put myself in a place where I feel really alone, or really angry, or really murderous, and this and that. And that can be a little, if you're not careful,
Mm.
um, that can leave you quite vulnerable, and also quite inauthentic in your real life. You have to kind of be, what I learned is that you kind of have to have a healthy amount of separation between your personal life and the work you do, even though the work is very personal. So it's very hard. Most actors I know struggle with that the most. And the biggest way it comes out is you'll hear a lot of actors talk about imposter syndrome, where it's
Yes.
like, they get very popular, very big, very quickly, and then they're like, this doesn't feel like me. I don't know what this is. And it's like, well, yeah, it's like your job is to play people that you are not. So of course, like the danger in that is that you're getting all this adulation and attention for doing something that isn't really you. And that's something I try and keep in mind when people come up to me at cons or conventions or meetups that are very, very nice. But like, oh my gosh, like you're my hero and this and that. And I it's very sweet, but in my head I always go like, well, I'm not your hero. The character is your hero. That's you appreciate the work and what I put into that character, and that's great, but that's not me. And I have to have that degree of separation. Otherwise, I will lose myself
Hmm.
in my work. I won't be able to identify or distinguish myself between who I am just as a person in my personal life and my art and the work I do. And so the a lot of the difficulty in my career was just kind of navigating that, and then navigating that with friends and colleagues as well, not being able to sort of separate the work from personal life, whether it's like, oh, you got that role, oh great, I didn't even get the audition, kind of dealing with the sort of tension and butting up with your friends and colleagues that inevitably happens because you're working in a space with people essentially competing for the same jobs and roles constantly.
Hmm.
And because it's a very personal thing you're doing, it's hard not to take it personally and have things get very, petty and personal very quickly. So,
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's honestly, yeah, that's honestly a very good thing that you pointed it out, because not a lot of people would really know about the feelings of a voice actor, because you only ever know them as this character, or this person, or a lot of their favorite media. But they kind of sometimes fail to realize that behind that character there's an actual person with actual thoughts and actual feelings that also have a personal life of their own. And it could create like a separation that kind of uh, leads to a kind of bad route. I've seen a lot of conventions where fans get a little too haywire, and voice actors kind of they fear, because a lot of these fans get super active and hyper about meeting their hero, and the person who voices that character that they really love. Um, and maybe you've gone to like several conventions. I'm not sure if you've had an experience with any of those ever in any convention that you've been in. Any story like that might have spoken out to you?
for the most part, no. I'm very intentional on my end that I sort of keep my personal life separate from my work and my work engagements.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean I don't make friends in work. It's more that like some voice actors or actors in general, because like our culture is steeped in Hollywood and
Hmm.
celebrity culture. A lot of them can sort of levy their own personalities and brands to be also this character that they play, whether they're Twitch streamers or YouTubers or whatever, however they're on social media, like their personality becomes another sort of part or role to play. And so fans can kind of latch onto that and feel like I really know this person because I've listened to their live streams and they've talked about their lives and this and that. I know the little jokes and I know what their pet's name is and I know their best friend.
Hmm.
And so when they meet you at cons, it's very like they can be very like instantly like overly friendly and overly close and kind of hovering around you. And I've seen other voice actors and friends of mine kind of have to deal with that. And I'm not blaming them per se, but I think it comes with being very public and very open
Hmm.
as yourself, in addition to the kind of the work you do. Whereas for me, I just wasn't really interested in doing that. I value my privacy and my personal life.
Hmm. Definitely.
I like having friends and connections that don't really have anything to do with my work, as well as friends within the industry. But so it's resulted in most of my fan interactions are really really nice.
Hmm.
They just know my work and don't necessarily know me, so they come up and they say thank you. This role is really great. I love what you did. They'll ask me questions, but they don't know me in that sort of like very public facing kind of what's the word it's a common internet phrase now. The not vicarious. It's the
Uh,
something so parasocial in
Parasocial,
that
yeah,
sort of
parasocial.
yeah. They
Yes.
don't really know me in that parasocial sense
Yes.
of like they know my personality and quirks and details about my life,
Mm.
mostly because I choose to be very private about those things. But it's definitely a part of my industry,
Mm.
and a lot of my friends and colleagues have to deal with that. So
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely agree with you there. I mean, no blame to you at all for like wanting to be, private because, a lot of the examples of a lot of these like famous people having a lot of their public information out, it can lead to sort of, a lot of dangerous situations where a fan might be a little too involved, a little too interested, and, a lot of dangerous things like stalkers and
yeah,
stuff like
and I've
that.
and I've always wanted the focus just to be on the work because that's what matter. That's what's important to me.
Yeah.
I just like working and working on new things and exploring things and becoming better at my craft and becoming a better storyteller and all that. So I want other people to value that as well.
Mm. Yeah,
Not
definitely.
that it's if I do a podcast or something funny and someone says, "Oh, I saw you on so and so show and you said this thing that was so funny." Of course, I'm gonna react positively to that. But for the most part, like I want people to be excited about the work I've done, whether it's like a scene, with Sunday or something I did in Beastars,
Mm.
like that. Because to me, that's the stuff I really work hard at, and that when I get recognition for or people get excited about, that's great because it's something I'm excited about too.
Mm.
So
Yeah. All right. Yeah. No. Definitely. I definitely do agree. Um, with all that considered, I was working on the Dungeons and Television video because I discovered this little indie anime just randomly on my recommended page, and I saw like that it was an official trailer about maybe released like a week ago. I was like, huh, what's this? It just so happened I was in D&D as well when I was just we were in the middle of combat or something, and I checked my YouTube and I was like, huh. So I checked it out real quick, and like almost instantly I fell in love with it. I'm a sucker for fantasy like fantasy anime. And I was like, yeah, I'm so on board with this. The fact that it's kind of just introducing this like kind of modern technology of television into like a fantasy setting. It was just like really interesting because not a lot of anime or fantasy stuff in general I've seen that kind of utilize a sort of method of just introducing technology from our period to like more of a Renaissance medieval time period. And I was super interested, and that was around the time I realized that wait, this is not from a studio at all. This is not being like aired on like a Crunchyroll or anything like that, or maybe anywhere that I might not know of. No, it's just gonna be like on YouTube or something. And not only that, there was people who were going to dub in it as well, and I was like, all right, that's interesting. And then come I believe it was August 19th when the first episode actually dropped. I checked it out and I saw that the dub cast of Dungeons and Television had a couple of recognizable names, specifically your name. And I checked out the documentary as well for Dungeons and Television, and that was when I was like, yeah, I'm hooked on this. Like I fell in love with just how the indie industry is going and how like Bonta is able to kind of put a lot of love, care, and passion into this project, and to be able to see not only like the English side but also like the Russian side be involved, it was really like inspiring to me. And as I was researching a lot of information about Dungeons and Television, I realized that there wasn't really a lot of information surrounding the English side of Dungeons and Television. Now, you voice Salvatore in Dungeons and Television, but beyond that, you also are a script adapter, caster, and voice director as well. And I kind of wanted to explore basically how did you hear about Dungeons and Television in the first place? How did this really form to become a thing that you would like be involved in?
yeah, funny enough, it was exactly the same way that you found out about it. I got
Really?
recommended, yeah, I got recommended the trailer on YouTube, and I was like, oh, like I wonder what this is because I work in the industry. Like I'm always I'll get trailers and stuff popping up for new video games and new anime, so I'll check them out occasionally if it catches my eye. And this one just looked very different.
Hmm.
I'd never seen a show that really looked like this, had this sort of um like style and feel to it. So I watched the trailer and I thought, oh, this looks amazing. And then I same as you, I was like, okay, who's this coming out by? Oh, this is an indie
Yeah.
like animator and indie anime team. Like, oh, it's just gonna be a short little episode. It'll come out on YouTube. And I was like, this is so cool. And then from my side, like in addition to voice acting, I also write and direct occasionally on my own projects, and then here and there on some other anime and video games and stuff. And I thought, oh, like it would be so cool if if this got an English dub. And I was like, why don't I see if I can reach out to the creator and see if he's even interested in this?
Huh.
So I ended up finding him on Twitter, and then sending him a DM, just being like, hi, my name is so and so. This is what I do. I'm interested in working with you. Like, are you interested? And almost immediately he was like, yeah, that would be great. What would that look like? What would we need to do in terms of budgeting and this and that? And this was about, I want to say like 3 weeks out from when it was supposed to release.
Hmm.
And so in those 3 weeks, I was like, yeah, let me put together, some audition materials and then get some people to submit auditions, and then I'll send you, my top picks, and then we can kind of go from there. And so immediately I just jumped into, I sent out auditions out. That took about a week. In the meantime, I was writing the script, and then we cast the actors. We cast some established voice actors who have kind of been working for a while, and then a bunch of new people, which I was really, really excited about.
Yeah.
Um, because um, part of what's interesting in casting, and you see it in Hollywood as well, it's like you also want to try and discover new people and introduce new people kind of into the industry, and it keeps it so that like you're not hearing or seeing the same people over and over and over again.
Hmm.
So each character, a new character or a new project can feel unique and special. And so did that, wrote the script, and then we went into a week of recorded everyone in about a week, and then we went into sound and mixing and everything, had that done, submitted it to Bonta, and then it was released and uploaded and scheduled at the same time as the Japanese version. And yeah, and then we put the trailer together as well. So there'd be a trailer. But yeah, it was a very, very quick process. And yeah, it was really just a kind of a passion project, because I wanted to, I again, like from the animation and everything, I'd never seen a show that looked like this, and you don't really see a lot of shows that feel like this either.
Yes,
It's kind of a
definitely,
lot more
definitely.
relaxed, laid back. It kind of takes its time. It doesn't have like this big overarching story, other than like, you know, they want to explore and report on what's going on in the dungeon.
Hmm.
So approaching that and kind of finding a tone that would work with the script and then with the actors, I wanted it to feel very relaxed, as well as very kind of cute and bubbly, because the art style kind of lends
Hmm.
itself to that. And I wanted to kind of ride that line kind of perfectly. But yeah, we got it done really, really quickly, and then it came out, and the reception has been overwhelmingly positive, which is great. I'm glad
Yes.
people are really into it, and I want to work on more. I think it's just a matter of kind of getting production going and
Yeah.
finding the right backers and everything. But yeah, and it was great. It was one of the best collaborations I've ever done. I've directed kind of bigger anime projects and stuff, and those are on like tight deadlines,
Hmm.
kind of like harder turnaround times, less immediate communication. What's great about working kind of in the indie space is that it's very personal from top to bottom. It's the creators, baby, and
Yeah.
they want it to be very, you know, everything to kind of be in its place and for the details to really stick out. So I got to ask all the questions I wanted, like, okay, who is this character? Why are they this way? What's their backstory? Okay, who are these little guys with the spears? Like, what are they? Blah, blah. And
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, which I don't usually get to do. A lot of times you get handed a show to dub into English, and you're like, okay, well, like maybe you'll get a little document explaining kind of terms and things like that, but you're figuring a lot out kind of as you go,
Hmm.
with a lot more pressure to deliver so that it can air or release at this time. And we had that pressure essentially because the Japanese version was already scheduled to release, but because it was a shorter episode,
Hmm.
there was a lot less stress around it, and a lot more just interest and openness from the creator to be like, hey, keep me updated, hey, let me know if you have any questions, hey, I really like this or that, that you don't always get to have in the more kind of professional studio space. Everything's kind of like procedural and corporate, and you kind of have to like ask one department and that department asks another department and so on and so forth. So just the process itself was amazing. And I think the show itself is really, really intriguing that I was happy to even like get to work on it at all. So
Yeah, no, that's definitely like it's really awesome. I love that you just had like in a split second you were just yeah I want to voice in this. I want to have a whole entire English subcast, and as well as like introducing new faces who might be going into the voice acting industry as well. It's like a really awesome. I really do love the whole entire like indie space of not only just like anime but like video games as well, because it's something about just something that's indie. A lot more of the ideas like kind of just like speak out to you, and they like it's like something that really wouldn't fly in like a big industry that is focused on what's the current trend, what's like what are people like liking right now, instead of having people kind of just give their idea and let it flow and see how it's like. And if someone like really likes a certain idea and they want to put a lot of effort into it, and a lot of people will also look at it and be like, yeah, no, that's a really interesting idea. And I really do admire Bonta's whole entire journey through creating Dungeons and Television. The amount of work that he's put in and the amount of like care, because he's made a lot of projects with the giant like television set that he's made, the little booklet that he has that kind of involves more about the world and the lore of the Dungeons and Television world. And it's really awesome to see that come from just like one person who just had a small idea, and it just so happened to just like grow and grow and grow, and a lot of people just fell in love with the idea, like me. And it's also even just more amazing that you were took an interest in this and had the idea of just getting an English dub, hoping to spread it further, because you're a pretty big name, and people might look into you, see what you've done, and they'll see, oh, Dungeons and Television. I mean, what is this? And they'll check it out. It's really awesome that you're giving this like indie anime like more of a platform for people to see it and just fall in love with it. And so the various voice actors that you had for all the characters in Dungeons and Television, were they all in the like? Did you record this in the same booth? Did you all meet up, or was it all online?
a lot of it was done online and remotely. A few
Mm,
of the actors live in the same area that I did, or one actor lived in the same area that I did,
mm.
so I had them come into the studio. But no, a lot of production now is kind of spread out. There are people in New York, there are people in LA, there are people overseas and all that. And so, but what's great is because of with modern technology, we can connect to each other and record each other like a high quality, like studio quality level of audio that plugs right into like my recording session on my computer. And so yeah, each of the actors, the lead for the actor who played C, Amanda
Yes,
Turin,
Amanda Turin.
lives in New
Yes.
yeah, lives in New York,
Huh.
and we had worked together on a couple of other projects, and I thought she was great. And she hasn't done a ton of anime, but whenever she does, she's like amazing to work with. And instantly, I think she was kind of someone that I was hoping would be like she was one of my picks early on when I was thinking about casting who would I want for each role. I had certain people in mind that I wanted to make sure read for the roles with everybody else, and it turned out that like she was exactly the right fit,
Oh
and
yeah, definitely.
she brought kind of the bubbliness, but also kind of the intensity
Mm.
and like this sort of hyperfixation that this character has about this emerging field that's brand new and that she wants to kind of carve a path for. But yeah, and then one of the other actors, M. Instenes, who plays
Oh yes,
Marta,
Marta.
is
Yeah.
brand new. We actually did a
Mm.
musical together, and that's how we met.
Oh.
They were one of the leads in this musical that I did, and we ended up connecting through that. And they had an interest in doing voice acting, and so I had kind of been giving them pointers and helping them out and audition for different things. And saw this character, heard the voice. I thought, oh, I think M would really do really well as this character. So sent them the audition sides, and then they ended up just nailing it, like doing a really, really good job. And part of the thing that's interesting is like with people who are newer to whether it's anime dubbing or voice acting, there's this quality to their voice because they don't quite know exactly how to do something there's this what would you call it? There's kind of vulnerability in the voice that's not there with someone who's like a seasoned
Yeah,
veteran and
yeah,
is
yeah. I
confident
get.
in their
Mm,
ability, and it's everything. Usually with actors like that, every line read comes out like crystal clear, perfect, almost 3D printed, to be exactly perfectly shaped. Whereas actors who are a little bit newer, there's sort of this instability of like, okay, like trying to land something, they like land like a dance move or a flip that they had just seen for the first time, and they're like, okay, I can do that, but they're still, trying to stick the landing and figure it out. But what comes of that is something that's very, very natural
mm,
and something that's very instinctual and that you can't always replicate. It was kind of like when I was talking about that work I did on Gundam.
yes.
It's because I was so new and trying to do my best and figure things out. The performance that ended up in the movie was something that, I could not like replicate if I tried, because I wasn't trying to do anything other than to like stick the landing on something on a move I'd never done before. And so M brought that into this character, which was perfect because they're this sort of awkward, inexperienced mage who
Mm,
got kicked out of their party and doesn't know what they're doing, and now is getting into the field of television, and he doesn't even understand what television is. So like they brought this perfect quality to the character. And I had them in studio to record it, which was great. But yeah, it was this really fun cross collaborative thing. The person who ended up doing the sound mixing is
mm.
someone who lives in Australia.
Oh, really?
Um, so yeah, I worked with people all over, which is great, which is what I really love about getting to do this and having the technology to do it, to where like I don't have to rely on, all right, I have to be in LA and I have to have,
Mm.
work with the actors who were there and blah blah. I get to really branch out and find whoever for the roles. So yeah.
Yeah, that's no, that's that's wonderful. I do love that you kind of just had everyone from like all over the place. Australia is actually quite amazing, honestly, because when Dungeons and Television was being made, Bunta had the help from animators from all over Japan, and they all collaborated in like this Google Drive using like Clip Studio, and they would all like form a lot of animations and a lot of sketches and stuff like that. And I really do love how that also plays in that story as well. That a lot of great things it doesn't always need to be like in one place. You can make something as good as Dungeons and Television from people all over the world. And yeah, no, the English dubcast did a phenomenal job at like bringing these characters life. Like Amanda Torn as C, or like Elizabeth as Shakiri. I really do love how it really does feel like I'm like super immersed into the world. Like these are what these characters are. This is who they are and what they would sound like. And you hear a lot of their, uh, it might be a stretch, but a lot of their personality and history in their voice as well. Like you
Mhm.
hear them and okay, yeah, like C would be passionate about interview television and broadcasting and stuff like that. And Shakiri's like a bit of more tomboyish, like on guard sort of person, and Marta being a little more timid, shy, a little naive, but no, they really did such a wonderful job. I really did love not only the Japanese dub but also the English dub as well. It was honestly really impressive for like an indie dub anime and stuff like that. It it's just I'm really amazed at the amount of effort that everyone put into this small project. And I really do look forward to the amount more episodes that are slated to come out in the future, as well as the performance from everyone in the dubcast as well. I really fell in love with the performance. It's really awesome. Um, and I was there anything in Dungeons and Television that maybe you had like a certain love for, per se?
I mean, the fact that the opening credits was done on film, I thought was really
Yes,
intriguing.
yes.
To me, the show itself has this very kind of handmade quality to it. Obviously, it's a small team.
Hmm.
It's a very passionate creator who's going after this very specific idea. And you mentioned it earlier that like, you're used to expecting a certain look and feel from anime, that I think is because anime is a very anime is a very popular
Yeah.
genre
Hmm.
of entertainment. And so and it's a very corporate style of entertainment as well, because there's t-shirts and Funko Pops and Nendoroids and all that. Like it's anime, uh, at, you know painting a broad brush, can sometimes feel a little bit like, okay, how do we sell this to people? And so you end up seeing shows that are, a little cookie cutter. You see the
Hmm.
same character stereotypes and archetypes, the same stylistic choices, the same sort of, oh, it's another shonen, oh, it's another, romance that's like the A, B, and
Hmm.
C.
Yeah.
Um, and back before anime really caught on and became like internationally popular,
Hmm.
you would see a lot more weird and strange or kind of just simple, cute, um, like shows. I think you still see a lot of it in the film space
Hmm.
because animation and film, like a film is really about like an idea and then really just like chiseling it down to its essential parts because you only have 2 hours. Whereas with the TV show, you can be a little bit more kind of, you know, um, I don't want to say loose. No, loose is probably the best way to describe it. You can kind of have a loose cast of characters, a loose setting, but every episode it doesn't have to be super focused. It can be this, and that. But what I have found with a lot of anime is that it ends up just being very archetypal and kind of cliche.
Hmm.
This show, you don't feel that at all. Like, obviously the characters have distinct personalities, and you can tell which archetype or which personality type the character is instantly, but you're not really sure where it's going, and you're just sort of caught up in the kind of whimsy and enchanted nature of the show itself, how it's designed, how the characters talk, how they sort of walk through the space. I think the intro really encapsulates that well. There's a lot of personality in each of the characters and just how they move and express themselves in the opening credits. And so that was something that probably grabbed me the most, that the show has this feel, this texture that like you can that really texture is the right word. You can feel like, everything hand drawn and put into place and projected across, across film and captured in this way that like you don't always get with anime that's, from bigger studios. And so that, to me, that was probably my favorite part of the series, and the thing I really zeroed in on is that just like I like the feel of the show. I want to sit here and just be with these characters, for as long as I can. Like I'm not whereas with other shows sometimes I just feel very driven to be like, okay, let's get to the next thing, or tell me what's going on, or this and that. It's not always easy to kind of get lost in the world of something in TV shows anymore. Like I think people can do that with books. I think people do it with video games a lot, but with shows, I think they're either too streamlined and because of that, sometimes they can be a little bit too predictable, or it's trained you to kind of expect the next thing and guess about the next thing and not just kind of sit and enjoy. And so that is the tone and the quality that Dungeons and Television has to it that I really, really appreciate.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree with that as well. The opening of Dungeons and Television, I really do have a lot to say about it. That I really couldn't fit in the video that I made, but I do plan to really go in depth about the opening because the opening itself, there's just so much to unpack from it. Not just the visuals of like cell animation that Bunta worked really hard on, because cell animation it's a really long process, and like no one really does it nowadays just because they have digital media
Yeah.
that they can just draw on, and it's boom right there. But there's a like certain quality of cell animation that you can't really replicate with anything else, like digital wise, and I really do appreciate the extra mile that Bonto really went to kind of realize the entire like mood of Dungeons and Television into this like quick opening that really showcases like, kind of what you're expecting to go into when you start watching Dungeons and Television. And Haneta Chica, the singer for the opening of Dungeons and Television as well, does a phenomenal job at singing the opening as well. I feel like it tells a story in and of itself. How it kind of just starts off very softly. These cast of four members in like the television guild, kind of starting from nowhere, and they're basically going on this journey to make everyone realize the power of television and kind of making this a more well-known thing. And I feel like Haneta Chica does a really good job kind of encapsulating that feeling in the opening as the song plays and plays. you can hear that she kind of, crescendos up and gets louder and
Yeah.
more projects herself a lot more in the song. And I feel like that also shares like a story with the Dungeons and Television crew,
Oh
with
yeah.
the story that there's that Bunta's setting up with the journey of television and the struggles that the cast might go into. There's a lot that I really appreciate about the anime and then the opening and the song. Yeah, I'm really in love with Dungeons and Television. I really do look forward to what Bunta has in store for us for the rest of the 100 episodes that he and his team has planned. I really do hope that one day I will see all 100 episodes, because like, I really, this is like one of the first times that I really did fall in love with a series, not just because of what, like, you know the story. It's television, people are gonna go out, but like the journey and process behind it as well, being just an indie anime that one person kind of put a lot of attention into, and
Yeah.
a lot of like-minded people who also wanted to see this, like Bunta's vision, like spread outwards into like internationally. It's such an amazing thing. And I want to do my part in trying to, like you, spread the attention of like Dungeons and Television, like its existence, to a lot more people out there, to kind of expose them to different other animes that aren't just shonen or romance or stuff like that. Like there could be like a whole completely different like setting and story, and the concept of Dungeons and
Hmm.
Television is just really interesting. And the whole entire feel of it, like the comfy feel of just going on a journey with these like four people, it's like almost Ghibli like, I want to say. Like,
Hmm.
a lot of it did speak to me like it was I'm watching a Ghibli movie or something. It's like it's so comfortable, it's so like relaxing to just see these people just kind of go on their journey, and just like the world and the atmosphere of the world is like it's it's entrancing, to say the least.
Hmm.
It's really wonderful. And yeah, I really do look forward to the rest of the episodes. And if anyway, if I could support the Bunta's work, either money wise or attention wise, I mean, I would love to do so. I would really love to see this project that Bunta has kind of get recognized basically everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's a bit of a stretch of a dream, but I would like it if I went in like a crowd of people and it's like, yeah, so about Dungeons and Television, and at least one person would be like, yeah, yeah, I love that show. That would be a dream that I would love to see, with Monto's work. And yeah, I had listened to several of your interviews, and you would talk about some of the goals that you had, um, to say that it had this marked like one of the goals that you've had on your list for a while, or was this something that you've never really expected and kind of just had this added to your short-term goals to complete and stuff like that?
A little bit of both. I think it came as a surprise because I wasn't expecting to find a show like this, but also I had made more of an effort to sort of pay attention and also participate in the indie field of
Hmm.
animation and anime and video games and all of that. I love working on these projects because there is such this care and attention to detail that can get lost in bigger and bigger productions because there's so many moving parts.
Hmm.
When it's smaller and more hands on, it feels that way, and it feels more personal, and there's this sense of kind of accomplishment that you get from working on something that's indie that is different from the sense of accomplishment you get working on something that's AAA and huge and has millions and millions of dollars behind it. That feels sort of bigger and like you're a small part of something massive, and you're just trying to do your best to make your small part as as perfect as possible. Whereas something smaller, more collaborative, it's like this sort of group arts project where it's like you can feel a lot more kind of personal pride and sort of excitement about when it comes out. And I agree, like I want people to know about this show. Actually, today I think it's supposed to come out the day we're recording. I recorded a top 10 list for watchmojo.com
Oh,
that
really?
talks about the top 10 anime that has to do with Dungeons and Dragons, and I ended up promoting the show on the episode. So I'm hoping people who watch the top 10 list go, "Oh, what's this?" and then end up checking out the show. That's my hope.
Oh, that's
Because I
awesome.
just want,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah,
awesome.
and yeah, like I mean, everything you said is exactly right. It's just there's just this special quality to the show that captured me instantly, and I wanted to make it a priority to, like, get the word out and get people interested. And I want to build a space where artists can work on the shows that they want to work on, and bring to life the ideas they want. I think not only with just sort of how corporate everything can kind of be, if you're trying to get into traditional animation or voice acting through the studio system, things can feel very kind of, you feel very locked into whatever it is they want you to make, and
Mm.
whatever is going to sell is what they want to make. But also in the online space, it can be hard too. Lots of artists, make their living doing fan art and things like that to get attention to their work and their ability. But their original projects sort of get maybe half the attention or a tenth of the attention that their sort of fandom driven art can get. And what I'm hoping is that the indie scene, because you know because the landscape is changing so much, and people can create shows and things with smaller budgets while still being super high quality, and giving people fair wages and all that. I hope that just continues to get better and better and better,
Mm.
so that we really have this sort of like economy of whatever, like whatever you're interested in, you can go find, or things that you wouldn't expect to see coming out of anime or video games or original animation, you can now go see. I don't think we would have ever seen a show like The Amazing Digital Circus,
Yeah.
10, 20 years ago. I don't think we would have seen a show like Hell of a Boss or Has
Mm.
Been Hotel 10, 20 years ago. There's all of these really interesting, stylistically different, and even story wise, or even how they lay out the story. We've never seen people really being able to play with a format like we have with the online space. And I just want to see more and more shows like that. And I want more and more accessible shows as well. YouTube, everybody can go
Mm.
click and watch, and engage with that content for free, which is super, super
Mm.
amazing. So I hope that this is just one in the long line of many, many more shows to come that, um, yeah, have this different kind of attention around them and within them. The people a part of it get to work on something and pay attention to something in a way that they don't get to do with more sort of industry standard corporate kinds of jobs and kinds of budgets. So that's what I'm really eager about and excited about, and it's why I really wanted to jump in on the show and be like, okay, I've worked on big budget AAA, huge anime shows. Like, if we can bring that level of expertise to this smaller show, but also honor the tone and the feel, and I keep using the word texture when it comes to the show, because it's a show that you can feel. You can
Yes.
feel it, like you can like when you look at a painting in a museum, and you see like the geometry of the brush strokes, that like, oh, that's something that if I touched, I could feel
Mm.
each brush stroke. I can feel that with this show that I don't always feel with other shows. So that was my goal from the initial sort of seeing the trailer and the interest. Is like, okay, can we bring this to life in a way that feels um, professional and highly skilled and organized, but also really honors what makes it so special. Like, let's not turn it into like, oh, what every anime or English dub sounds like right now. Let's make it very particular to the show and honor what's there. So yeah, in a long, very long nutshell, that was kind of my goal with the show.
Yeah, no, that's definitely like really awesome. I do really appreciate the effort that you're going to really, not only just for Dungeons and Television, but also like the indie scene as a whole, and kind of inspire people to, tell them that, hey, even if your idea may sound like dumb to you, but it might be like a very massive hit for a lot of other people that kind of had the same like idea or interest like that you had. Um, and hopefully that I will start seeing, a lot more, not only indie animes but like indie creations as well, like glitch productions, like um, Digital Circus, or Visipots like Hell of Boss, Has Been Hotel. I do really hope to see a lot more of those, because I feel like personally, um, indie media is just a lot more fulfilling and entertaining, and compared to like a lot of big industry media stuff out there. So I do love being able to support like small creators and new and upcoming creators as well. And I really do hope that a lot more of those start popping up as the years go by. Um, but yeah, no, you definitely had said everything that I had on my mind. Yeah, no. But thank you very much for kind of like being able to come out here and do an interview. I know that you're a really massive guy. You're probably busy with a lot of projects and everything. And I'm over here. I'm a small guy. I have like 100 subs. Not a lot of people know me. So genuinely, thank you very much for making time to allow an interview for Dungeons and Television.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. I thank you very much. I do have one final question
Yes.
before we kind of sign off here. So I did do a bit of like research, a little in-depth research on your YouTube channel, and I do notice that the first video you have uploaded in your channel seems to be an anime review
Yeah.
on a little known anime that people may or may not have heard of, Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
I watched it, and honestly, it was pretty entertaining. I really did love the comedy that you put in that video. And I realized, like, wow, I actually have not seen Sword Art Online in so long, and you pointed out a lot of maybe the good parts and the bad parts.
Yeah.
It was really entertaining. So maybe a question that a lot of people may or may not be wondering: when can we expect more of those anime reviews?
I have thought about it. That I recorded that. It has to have been 10 years ago. Like, I
Yeah.
believe I recorded it while I was a senior in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Wow.
On like a Rock Band USB microphone, like, yeah, in my bedroom. I've thought about it. My curiosity about it is that, like, I like talking about works of art, and in a critical way, but in a way that's sort of like, let's get into why does something work, why does something not work.
Hmm.
Um, I like it from an artist's perspective. I think there's a tension between artists and critics, which is interesting.
Hmm.
Like, there's a whole industry of critics, people who critique movies, critique food, critique video games, and what's interesting is that, like, there's not a lot of crossover in terms of, like, what critics look for in a game or a movie or a show is not always what the consumer looks for, like someone who plays the video game or someone who watches the show looks for. And also, from a creator's perspective, it's not always the creators don't understand why that particular thing that a critic is critiquing, like, matters. Like, okay, what do you mean? What do you like? So there's this almost they're almost separate, like, not only art forms, but, like, there's a separate language around both of those things. So for me, if I was going to do more reviews or videos like that, I would want to do it from the perspective of someone like, hey, I work in this industry, and I work in this with this art form and in this field. Like, let's talk about it from that perspective, and, like, okay, why does this scene work really, really well, or why didn't it work?
Hmm.
How could it have worked, or how could we have make it work? So if I do ever come back and do more sort of like video essay or review type videos, I'd probably want to do it around that. I think right now I'm so busy with other stuff that I have
Yeah,
not
I
had
know.
time to kind of
Definitely.
sit down. Um, and also, I'm still figuring a lot of stuff out on my own. Like, I could make tons of videos on, like, how to be a great voice actor, and sort of how to train, how to study, how to sort of track your progress, what things to focus on, what things not to, because, like, I have so much experience with it now. From a storyteller perspective, I still feel like I'm still kind of in my infancy. Like, I've pitched, animated shows to big studios before. I've written scripts. I'm working on a animated musical short right now, and I want to put that out and see how people respond to it, and then make a half hour like short film from there. So right now I'm sort of in artist mode of, like, okay, I'm learning, I'm trying to get better at something, I want to get feedback, and I have a lot more work to do before I feel confident to sort of critique other
Hmm.
people's work. Because it coming from somebody who works in the industry, that's the one thing that's sort of difficult. Because again, like, a lot of these reviewers, like, they're essentially journalists for creative works,
Hmm. Hmm.
but they themselves don't make films. It's not their expertise. What they are is they're just a connoisseur of these things, and observe the art form from a different angle that is interesting, but isn't the same. Whereas for me, it's like, I can't do that. Like, I'm in the art. like I work in this field and with this art form, so I would have to approach it in a different way. And right now my focus is on, let me put my own stuff out there first before I start making either public like video essays or reviews critiquing or talking about other people's um work. And also part of it is also like my criticisms I would have for different shows or this and that, that'll end up in my own work.
Hmm.
And as like plenty of my own work is a response to a thing I see where I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that they did this with this kind of character, this kind of story. I wish they had done this instead. And so I was like, great, let me just channel that into actually making the thing instead of a video kind of talking about why something wasn't something I wanted it to be.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no,
yeah,
definitely. If there's an issue that you have with it, why don't you fix it yourself? I mean,
yeah, right.
it's kind of it's yeah, that's really awesome. If if ever the chance you ever do actually get the time to really make another one of videos like those, I will definitely keep my eye out for that because it was really informative as well to kind of watch that video again. And despite its age,
Oh
some of
yeah,
it still holds true. Some of it still holds true.
it's fun. It was funny going back and listening to it and being like, oh no, that like that's I encapsulated my opinion of the show pretty strongly. Even now,
Yeah,
like looking back, I'm like, yeah, that's about what I felt with Sword Art Online. I was like,
yeah.
it's a really strong show. The first 13 to 14 episodes, and then I mean, there are some details that I wish that first season went a little bit longer. They spent
Mm,
more time on certain details, kind of
most
like what we
definitely.
talked about with Dungeons and Television. I wish shows were allowed to breathe a
Yes.
little bit more without wasting time. There's a fine line between taking your time and wasting audiences' times,
Mm,
especially with TV, to the
mm,
point where it bled into movies. Movies used to be hour and a half to 2 hours. And then for
mm.
the last decade, they became 3, 4 hour things where it's just like, I don't want to sit in a theater or on my couch for 3 to 4 hours watching one thing. And then same with television, when Netflix became bingeable, TV shows became
Oh yeah.
bingeable, you could kind of just, you didn't have to have a beginning, middle, and end in an episode. You could kind of have a beginning, and then the show episode ends, but then you pick it up in the next thing, and then we kind of get to the middle.
Mm,
And I think it just made it so that like time wasn't well spent, and time is a very valuable
mm.
thing for all of us. So all that being said, that like yeah, it was funny going back and watching that review and being like, yeah, that was 17-year-old me, but that's pretty close to like what I felt, and I felt I expressed it as best I could.
Yeah,
But yeah.
no, yeah, that's definitely very true. I definitely do agree with a lot of the points that you said in that video, and even now, I do realize it's like flaws that it had. It could have been a bit better, but it is what it is, and it's out there for people, and people
Yeah,
love
it
it.
also turned into a thing that like
Yeah.
it was. I feel like that Attack on Titan. It was the early 2010s that really pushed anime from like niche, like recognizable to like mega like popular, and it became about like the iconography and what these characters represented and how they could be sold to people. Like
Hmm.
Sword Art was like that, and Attack on Titan were the two shows, and probably a few others I'm forgetting, that like really exploded, and everybody just tried copying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And to the
definitely.
point where like it's so easy to like recognize the design principles, not just from like an art style perspective, but from like you know how you build a main character in dropped into this world and
Hmm.
having to and go through all these things. Whereas with Sword Art, it was before that was a widely popular genre with everybody trying to copy
Hmm.
paste and do it better so that their thing would be more popular or sell. But yeah, it's interesting looking back on that show and seeing the impacts it's had you
Yeah,
know since then.
it's been a very, very huge impact. Yeah, no, but thank you so much for coming out here. It's been
Absolutely.
such a wonderful experience, wonderful time. Is there, any sort of like, social medias that you want to drop down for people to check you out? Or any sort of like videos that maybe you would want to drop in? Anything?
Yeah, you can find me if you just search my name, Griffin Puatu. You'll find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. I am working on a 10-minute animated musical short film based on Disney's Wish. It's sort of a what if. What if Wish was a love story instead? And it's going to have original music in it, a musical sequence. It's animated completely by one guy named Gabriele Camacholi. So it's indie animation, and we really want to get people eyes on it and people excited about it. So then from there we can make original stuff as well. After that, that should be you can find clips and trailers for that on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram. We're going to be releasing more stuff over the next coming months, and then hopefully it'll be released probably sometime early 2026. That's the hope.
Nice, awesome. That's honestly really great. I do love the amount of like effort you're putting into putting and indie scenes out there. I really do love it. And yeah, I do look forward to you and the rest of the cast in future episodes of Dungeons and Television.
Yeah.
I really do look forward to it. And yeah, thank you so much for just being here and allowing me the opportunity to really ask you questions about Dungeons and Television, so that I can kind of put it out there for people to really know what goes on. What goes on in an indie scene of like the dub cast of everything that goes on in it. So yeah, thank you very much, Griffin Puatu. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, I'll be seeing you maybe in the future, hopefully. Maybe.
Sweet. Awesome, man.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Goodbye.
Alrighty.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.